Alright, good morning. This lesson is for my Integrated 1 class. This is Monday, March 23rd. This is going to be Unit 7, Lesson 5, as well as Homework 5. So, I hope everyone's doing alright. I want to let you guys know that I did reach out to parents this morning to let them know that I have graded 3 assignments from last week. I want to remind you guys that it's really important that you are completing your assignments, because when this is all over, we want to be able to say, hey, look, I did everything you asked in this situation, and I think that I deserve credit for this. So please make sure you're doing all the assignments that I give you. Again, I'm trying not to overwhelm you, but we do need to keep moving forward with this, because we will get back to normal, and we want to make sure that we didn't fall behind. Okay. If there are any issues, though, please do let me know. I will try my best to accommodate anything that I need to, or if I can help. So please let me know. I'm responding to emails as well as Remind app questions. So anyways, let me talk about today's goals. We played Tetris last week, and the reason why I wanted you to play Tetris is I wanted you guys to actually experience the concept of 2 types of transformations. The first type of transformations we saw last week, which was called a translation, which are literally just sliding shapes left and right, up and down. And then you can actually do a combination, which would give you a diagonal movement. That was part of the game, was moving your shapes. The second part of the game was rotations. They spin. And they can spin in 2 directions. They can spin in what we call the counterclockwise direction as well as the clockwise direction. And so I'd like to just spend the beginning part of this lesson investigating rotations. We're going to be doing rotations on the coordinate plane. This is going to be our center of rotation. That's what we're going to spin around. There's a couple things I want to clarify here. I don't know if you guys ever heard this vocabulary, but our graph is broken up into 4 parts, and each part's called a quadrant. Quad meaning 4 quadrant. So I have my first quadrant, my second quadrant, my third quadrant, and my fourth quadrant. Now, if we have to differentiate between a positive rotation and a negative rotation. And the way that I remember a positive rotation is I remember the order of the quadrants: first, second, third, and fourth. So when I spin in this direction, that's actually considered a positive rotation, and we call that a counterclockwise rotation. So spinning in this way is a positive rotation. Now, if this direction is a positive rotation, it's pretty simple to realize that the other direction must be our negative direction, and we call that our clockwise direction. So again, the order of the quadrants will hopefully help you remember that that's a positive rotation. The opposite direction, that will be a negative rotation. So in this lesson, you're going to be asked to take a shape from one quadrant and then rotate it a certain amount. And I'm going to try and simplify this as much as possible. Now, let's just start off with a point X. And I'm going to put, just for simplicity, I'm going to put X in the first quadrant. Okay. So if I want to rotate X, and we're only going to do 4 rotations: a 90 degree, a 180 degree, a 270 degree, and a 360 degree. So there's 4 angle rotations that we're going to deal with. Now they can go in the positive direction or they can go in the negative direction, and we'll start to see how these all really combine. So in actuality, there's only 4 rotations that you need to know. Alright, so if I want to rotate X, this point X, 90 degrees in the positive direction, what's going to essentially happen is this line is going to spin and land on top of that line. And so when it spins and rotates, X comes along with it. So if I was to rotate X 90 degrees, we would end up here. Now remember, I'm going to put this prime mark to indicate that I've moved. So this is what it looks like to rotate 90 degrees. Now over here I wrote a 90 degrees, you move one quadrant counter in the counterclockwise direction. So I went from the first quadrant to the second quadrant. If I was to start in the second quadrant, I'd end up in the third. If I started in the third, I'd end up in the fourth. If I started in the fourth, I'd end up in the first. So a 90-degree rotation, you move one quadrant counterclockwise direction. All right. All right, so let's talk about 180 degrees in the positive direction. 180 degree rotation, this segment is going to spin and land on this segment. So over here, I'm on top, and so as it spins, it's actually going to end up down below. So this is roughly where my point x prime would end up. Remember, the prime means that I have moved, I have changed my location. Right, so if I was to spin, it would come like that. And so when I rotate 180 degrees, I move 2 quadrants in the counterclockwise direction. If I move 270 degrees, I move 3 quadrants in the counterclockwise direction. And if I spin 360 degrees, that basically means that this comes all the way around to that. So let me quickly just show you 270. This segment will spin all the way around to this segment. That's what we're asking you to do. We want to take this and spin it to here, and when I do that, my x is now going to be here, right? So it's a very visual section. That's the difference in the geometry aspect versus the algebraic, is this becomes a very visual mathematics. All right, and we're going to start working on creating the rules. The rules are really easy to apply, and the last rotation is 360 degrees, where literally I'm saying I take this and I spin it all the way around and I end up back where I'm at. Now, if I was to do a negative 90 degree rotation, I am going to move one quadrant, but in the in the clockwise direction. So if I was to go 90 degrees in the clockwise direction, I'm taking this and I'm spinning it down, I would actually end up right here. And so what I want to point out to you is that a negative rotation of 90 degrees is going to take me to the exact same place that a 270 degree rotation would take me. So I'm going to put a negative 90 degrees to indicate that I'm moving in the clockwise direction. That's the exact same as moving in the 270 degrees in the counterclockwise. If I want to move 180 degrees in the clockwise direction, what I'm asking you to do is I'm asking you to take this and slide it to right there. And when I do that, again, I end up in this location. So I ended up in this location earlier when I did a 180 degree counterclockwise rotation. So in fact, a negative 180 degrees rotation is the exact same as a 180 degree rotation. And let me finally wrap this up with my negative 270 degree rotation. That would take me up to this part of the axis. So I rotate this all the way around. I'm going to end up right here, which was the exact same location I ended up when I did a 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. So again, I said that there's 8 rotations, but in actuality, there's a positive way to get there as well as a negative. Now, a 360 degree rotation in the counterclockwise direction is also going to be the exact same as a negative 360 degree rotation. So again, if I have a negative sign in front, I'm indicating that I'm moving in a clockwise direction. No negative, it's a positive number. I am moving in the counterclockwise direction. So I'm going to say that we've checked off the investigation of the rotations. And now I'd like to create rules. We only have 4 situations. And they're pretty easy to figure out what they're going to be. So let me clean this up. I'm going to leave that so I can hit each one. We're almost done. This is actually pretty simple. So I'm going to start at 3, 1. And I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. I'm going to move 1 quadrant counterclockwise, or I can go 3 in the clockwise direction. So to do this rotation, we're actually going to move our shape, and I'll call this A. We're going to move A to, which is at 3, 1. A actually moves now to A prime, which is going to be at -1, 3. And so what's happening here is my X value now becomes my Y value, and my Y value now changes to the X value, and it changes signs. So for this rule, to do either one of these, you're going to take your ordered pair, whatever it is that you start with, and you're going to switch the X and the Y. You're going to switch their location, and we're going to change the sign of the Y. Okay? So this is my notation for, or this is my rule for a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation or a 270-degree clockwise rotation. I'll just do another quick example. If I gave you, let's say, something like 6 and -3, my new ordered pair, let's see here. So X turns into Y, so the 6 is going to move to there. The sign of Y moves, or Y moves to where the X was, and its sign changes. So here I have a -3. After I rotate it, it becomes a +3. So this is my rule for those rotations. Let's quickly talk now about our 180-degree rotation. Let me erase this part. Okay, so I want to do a 180-degree rotation. So that means that I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it all the way over to here. So it's going to rotate to this. It's going to spin around and come here. So A goes to A prime. Now my ordered pair is -3, -1. So the X number stayed in the X spot. The Y number stayed in the Y spot. But notice the signs changed. So our rule for this is going to be X, Y is going to turn into -X, -Y. This is my rule for either a negative 180-degree rotation, which is the clockwise direction, or a positive 180-degree rotation, which is in the counterclockwise. So again, if I was to take this ordered pair, just as an example, 6, 3, if I wanted to rotate it 180 degrees in either direction, it would turn into X becomes -X, so that becomes, I'm sorry, it's -3. So this becomes -6, and Y becomes -Y, so I just change its sign to a positive. Again, this is my rule for either a positive or negative 100-degree rotation. A negative 90-degree rotation or a positive 270-degree rotation. Remember, I'm going to move 3 quadrants. So I'm going to end up on this quadrant here. And so A is going to move to A prime, which is going to be at 1, -3. Again, the numbers are still the same. I didn't make that prime very large. The numbers are still the same. X turns into Y, its sign changes. Y turns into X, but it stays the same sign. So let's quickly just write this rule. X, Y turns into, remember, Y changed to the X, its sign didn't change. X turned into the Y, and its sign changed. Okay, so again, if I was to use this ordered pair of 6, -3, we would see that it would turn into, following the rule, X turns into our Y value, and it changes its sign, so this is going to become -6. Y becomes the X value, and it stays the same. The last one, I think, is pretty simple. I don't think I need to spend any time doing this. XY turns into XY. Alrighty, so what put boxes around. You can add that to your cheat sheet for rotation rules. I'm going to post the assignment as well. Again, I hope everyone is doing all right. And please make sure you get that work done. I want to get you credit. I want to be able to tell my bosses, hey, look at all the work my guys accomplished. Let's get these guys on to the next class. Have a good day. I'll post the next video tomorrow.